Well, I've got an organization that's got it down, and with the partnerships like the one we have in Bakersfield, and where people are motivated, it's a lot easier job.
So, I see a lot of people in the entertainment industry that are sitting this one out in great comfort, on yachts and, so forth. You could do that. Why? This is the dumb question of the day. I'll start off with that. Why? Why are you not on your yacht?
Well, first of all, I couldn't do that. I couldn't. I don't think I could pay for a vacation on a yacht, much less a yacht. But I don't think I know. Look, I don't think my business is any different than any other business. I see. And it's very hard in this one to know who's doing what, and doing something really starts with the quarantining, because that's a commitment all its own. And when you talk about successful people in the movie business, that's a much easier job to quarantine when you have a nice home and some money in the bank, which a lot of people don't have. So whether you're operating test sites or just being diligent in quarantining, taking care of your family and yourself, it's all exactly the same thing, and it's called citizenship and unifying. So the movie business stuff, I frankly I've been too busy to know who's involved in what ways.
Yeah. Reading up on CORE, what I see, the unifying theme here obviously is that everybody's affected by this, but the elderly, the poor people among us. There are some folks that are more affected not just by this, but by all kinds of disasters, man-made and otherwise. Talk about that.
Well, I think this speaks to a lot of the debates, and I'll leave it to every individual that hears it wants to pay attention to what I'm going to say here. This is no different than an active shooter scenario. This is an active shooter. When we talk about opening, we have to talk about opening knowing the active shooter is still active, and that yes, specifically targeting people of color, specifically targeting the elderly, specifically targeting the indigenous, but very happy to randomly shoot everybody around. And we are all dependent on each other. We do have interaction with each other, socioeconomic, ethnic, gender. Everybody is connected to each other on this. So, if we're only going to consider an active shooter because that's an easy, as a person with a gun, because that's an easy one to blame, then we're not paying much attention to the result on the other end of that barrel.
If we don't learn something from all this, then that's another tragedy. What can we learn? What should we learn from this?
My biggest hope, and I know that this is a common thought, is that we learn to pay attention to science on all levels and in every way that it's going to be. COVID-19 is not our existential threat, but we have existential threats, and in particular climate poverty. And what we are seeing with COVID is in the latter category, a particular sighting on those disadvantaged. And for us to be Americans, if we're not going to look out for the disadvantaged and by extension ourselves, then we're losing track of what America's based on.
I see a lot of these protesters out on the street, and we don't need to go there, but I see a lot of American flags out there, which strikes me as, maybe a little bit odd. I mean, we should have some American flags out here right now, but what you're talking about to me sounds like patriotism.
Well, here's what I think about that. I think that the people who exhibit the most rage, the most opposition, whether to leaders who are doing service for the people of their areas and states, that we have to exercise a certain empathy, because that anger is a demonstration of terror and weakness, and they are the weaker among us, and I think that it's when they are led into a denial of what's happening here, they will accept that out of just a strength that they have yet to be able to build in themselves. So, they are our fellow Americans, the same as any, and that active shooter is just as lethal to them as it is to us.
You talked a little bit about Vietnam, and you talked about military people who took their own lives afterward. There's a PTSD issue that we're confronting. We've already seen it here. How real is that, and what can we do about it?
Well, my hope is, again, like in the aspect of paying attention to science, climate, etc. PTSD is not a new thing. Mental health is not a new thing. And I think is pervasive in a way that we've never known on Earth before. I don't think any of us are untouched by those issues. And what does it mean? It means the access to a possibility of happiness, to be able to deal with mental issues as well as physical and medical ones. So, again, this may be one of the silver linings, and I hope so. Typically, the reactions that are righteous are perishable shortly after disasters. This one is making its mark, and I think that in such a devastating way, and what will be such a continuing way, that it's only, I say choose to be optimistic.
Yeah. What exactly is CORE's role today? Is it financial? Is it logistics? Is it all of the above?
It's all of the above, as with all of the partners' investment in this site. We bring what value added we can. We resource in partnership when available, and we resource independently where not available, but where we're most needed.
What else do I need to ask you?
You need to ask me what it's like to have an organization betting a streak of getting sites up and hemorrhaging money and just driven and rolling that dice, and we need people's support at coreresponse.org/COVID-19.
Go to that website and look into donating.
Yes, please.
Yeah. This is serious stuff, and I don't want to go too light here, but I mean, you did mention earlier that you have a affinity of sorts for Bakersfield. Tell me about that.
Well, the first movie that I wrote and directed took place in an agricultural mecca, but in the Midwest. And I remember coming out here. I guess I was about 20. I'd been out here many times. I used to play tennis, and I'd come out and play the big tennis tournament. They used to do juniors tennis out here when I was a kid. Always had a great time. And then I've run the Kern River, as I like to river kayak when I can. And that's a gorgeous place, an incredible experience. But then I came out at, I think, 28 years old when I was writing this thing, and I would just drive out here every day and get out of the car, sit on my hood, and dream up the movie. So that was kind of and then find a bar somewhere and talk to somebody local, and just come away with a good experience.
Yeah. And of course, you had the documentary a few years ago that.
Yes, you had a problematic district attorney in Bakersfield, and the documentary was called Witch Hunt. A lot of really wonderful Bakersfield citizens' lives were truly decimated by a political agenda, and I'm glad to see that change was made in that particular administration. I think there's changes yet to come here.